Good evening and welcome to our Amud Yom Shir. Welcome back to the Amud Yom Shir. Welcome back to your David. We are now in Baruch Hashem the Shir Latzlolas Klal Yisrael. I would say Latzolos Klal Yisrael. I think that's what we're holding right now. Amar Avuna. We are now Chaf Amud Aleph. We're going today to finish perek Rishon and start Be'ezras Hashem the second perek. Wow, time flies. When we have fun today, Be'ezras Hashem will start the famous perek by Mem Adlikin, and finally we're going to understand what some of us say every Leil Shabbos. This is Sfarad less. I know I'm also Sfarad. It's okay. I'm with you. You say by Mem Adlikin Leil Shabbos? You do. You? You say by Mem Adlikin on Leil Shabbos? Oh, so now we'll get a better understanding. So now, before that, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Omar of Huna. We spoke in the Mishnah about the fact that before Shabbos comes in, if you want to light fire, and we're not talking here about cooking, that we dealt with, and we will deal with it later in Perek Shlishi extensively. Now the fire that we talk about is fire that you light before Shabbos in order to have heat, for warmth, for heat. And the issue is that if you don't have roiv, if you don't have enough of the light of the fire already on, properly lit before Shabbos, if it's less than roiv, or according to Shmuel, if it's to another, shaloyim ruhav eitzim, if you're still concerned that you still need to bring more paper, more firewood, more gasoline to the Medura, then what's going to happen on Shabbos? You may come to stoke the fire, Chalila. Even chas v'shalom not b'mezid, even b'shogeg, so pressurized, that's the idea why by cooking we have a blech. This is not about cooking, but even regular fire, you may come to stoke the fire if it's not properly already on its way, to be steady and good. Then that's why the fire has to be steady enough and big enough before Shabbos comes in. That's a rule for sure. Now the details, some details we saw, I'm going to see more details now. So now, Omar Avuna. Konim ain't tzrichin roiv. Now, let's say you have konim. Konim, these are like reeds. Reeds are more flammable than wood. Reeds are flammable once they dry. Konim ain't tzrichin roiv. Let's say you have konim that are not tied together, not bundled together. Stam, a bunch of konim, lying on the floor, one here, one there, like a messy, like Bahomer Medura, and they're there on the floor stam. They don't need roiv, meaning even if you don't have the majority already on fire, it's already okay. Why? Because Rashi says, because really there are already, there are ein kovin v'holchim, eladolkim v'holchim. The nature is to have more and more fire naturally continuing, the more flammable. That's konim, not eitzim. Now, we're going to see many other exceptions, but this is one. We are sorry to disappoint, but as opposed to the end, we're still at the end of Perek Rishon. So welcome to your shir. We're going to get to Perek Sheni soon. Ogdon, we are now in Daf Chof Amud Aleph towards the bottom of the page, like 5 lines from the bottom. Now, Ogdon Tzrichin Roiv. Let's say you bundle them up together. Imagine yourself like a whole bunch of sticks that are all stuck together. Mamish with like a rubber band. Like they're all there together, stuck together, then they need to have the majority of the fire catching before Shabbos. Why? Rashi says because the fire can't travel, so to speak, can't burn between them inside. They're too tight together, they don't allow the fire to come in. So then you do need roiv before. As much as they're flammable, they're not going to let the fire in because they're all tight, like bundled, and therefore there you do need to have roiv before Shabbos, otherwise you may mess around with it on Shabbos. Gar'inin, on the other hand, Gar'inin are, funnily enough, the same according to Rav Huna. Gar'inin ain't tzrichin roiv. Gar'inin, let's say you have Gar'inin shel tomorrow. You have dried stones. It's called in some people English called of the dates, the pips of the dates, called stones. But I think also American, and you don't call them that way. I think English people call it stones. You have the pips of the Gar'inim of the dates. Well, apparently they're very flammable also, and if they're lying on the floor like that, they don't need roiv. In other words, even if you don't have the majority of fire on before Shabbos, they're so flammable, it's going to go by itself. Yetov. The majority, even without the majority, even if you only have the minority of fire, things will go well. Yeah, and you're not going to be concerned, and you're not going to come to stoke the fire. However, as we said before, nosnot b'choislois tzrichin roiv. Choislois is something also mentioned later. Daf Pei Aleph. Sometimes they would stick they would insert, put inside all the ga'inim. They'll put it in like a bag, yeah, like a chitul, like a bag. They'll take like a bag, and or that bag would be from like a lulav, like a koshikol, yeah, made out of, yeah, what you hold the lulav with, be like a closed thing like that. It would put all the garinim there for whichever reason. Don't remember, the Gemara says there. And then once they're stuck together, again, the fire can't go in. And therefore, then you do need the roiv before Shabbos because your mind is not at rest. You don't think that the fire will really penetrate, and you may come to stoke and play around with it. Chalila on Shabbos. Maskif lo Rav Chizda. Oh, that's what I meant before. Oh, Rav Chizda is attacking Rav Huna's opinion. Andraba, Ipcha Mistaba, just the other way around. I have a fakerta, an opposite svor from you. Konim mevadran. Konim are mevadran. In other words, if the konim are all over the place, they are mevudar. They are too dispersed. Yeah, they are sparse and they are far away from each other, and one would not like the other. If you don't have the roiv, right, they're not really stuck together. One here, one there, here, Dorton, different places. They're not, united enough to have the fire within them. And then dafka konim evadran, and then you do need roiv. Then you do need roiv fire before to make sure that it goes well. Otherwise, it won't. Agdan lo mevadran. And dafka, if you stick them together, then one would like the other. Yeah, both saying different things from the worlds of physics. Once they're stuck together, bundled together, one will like the other. Achdis. And then dafka, they are not going to fall apart. They're not going to be dispersed. And then you don't need roiv. You don't need roiv because things will just continue. Shatea shall have its oila. It's going to go by itself. Garinin, and the same it says about garinin, mevadran. If you have the pips of the tamarim, if they are all over the place, they're gonna go far. One here, one there, one the other. They're not gonna find each other to ignite the fire together. And then you do need roiv. Mashenkin, when they're stuck together, the fire will catch all of them together. They'll be united and light each other. And then enochinami, then they're not mevadran, and then you don't need the roiv. It will happen by itself. So beketz are two opposite svars. Yeah. Now, the Rav Huna says that when they are stuck together, it's not good. No, the fire won't get in, and therefore you need roiv before. And when they're separate, it's better. And Rav Chizda said the other way around. When they're together, they're gonna light each other up, and eventually the fire will come in. And when they're far apart, then it's not good because they won't light each other. When I say good, not good, good, you don't need roiv. If it's not good, you need roiv because it won't just happen by itself. Now, Itmar Nami. This Gemara has many girsois. I'm sticking to Rashi. According to one girsa that should follow Rashi, you don't say Nami. Itmar, now we're going to have a third opinion, which basically reconciles between the two. Yeah, we're going to have now a third opinion, Rav Kahana. Oh, we're getting there. Amar Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana is going now to pick and choose between the two opinions, between Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. Amar Rav Kahana, depends which one. Each one is different. I'm following the girsa of the Gemara, which is the girsa of Rashi. Although there are many other ones, let's just be, today we're good kids, we do Gemara and Rashi. Amar Rav Kahana, Konim, there's a difference between the Konim, the reeds, and the Garinim, which are the pips. Konim she'ogdon srichin roiv, loy ogdon and srichin roiv, which means, when it comes to the Konim, Rav Huna is right. When they're stuck together, the fire will not go through. The konim are straight, hard, yeah. They're not going to light the fire, the smooth. They won't let the fire go in, and then they need the roiv, a fire to catch before Shabbos. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Loy ogdon, mashe'en ken, loy ogdon. If they are just lying on the floor, there's no problem. You know why? Says Rashi, arukin v'kvedin, as opposed to the pips which are very small and really fly all over the place. These are not so far apart. There are sticks. The sticks that are red, they're not very heavy, the reeds, but they're relatively heavier, and they are long, and they're all on top of each other, more or less. So that's perfect. It's like a regular Medura. It's going to work. Mashenkin Garinin is just the other way around. The pips are just the opposite. Srichin roiv. The Garinin, if you don't bundle them together, they're really far apart. Each garin, each pip, which is tiny, which is small. One won't light the other, right? You have one small garini, one here, one there, one everywhere. They're not going to unite and light each other. Then they need a roiv before you go to shul to say lechadoidi and say b'mem and likin. Yeah, make sure that the fire already caught the majority. And dafka, if they're together in the choislois, they're in their bag, they are dafka better. It's better for them to be together. Then the fire will go in and they'll light each other up, simultaneously. Yeah, they will reciprocate, and therefore then you don't need the roiv. And as far as I know, I don't. Again, this is not a halacha shir. I hope you're not disappointed, Danny. This is, as they say, almost every time, once or twice in the shir. But it looks like that's halacha. There's a difference in konim and the garinim. Yeah, for the konim, it's better to be far apart, and for the garinim, it's better to be together. When I say better, I mean to say that's a situation which the person in his mindset his mind is at rest that the fire will continue without his interference, and he really will not interfere. We rely on him not to stoke the fire, and that situation is okay to be in when Shabbos comes in. Now, continues the Gemara, more exceptions to the rule. Tani Rav Yosef, Arba meduros ein tzrichin roiv. I kept mentioning gasoline and all these things that people are scared of it. So there are 4 types of fires that do not require roiv. Shel zephes. If you add zephes to the medura, zephes is tar. Tar, it's very flammable. So once you add the tar, to the fire, that's a sure hit. That will just light it up. Even if you don't have roiv, and physics know that it's okay. It will continue by itself, and you're okay. Bishul gofris, sulfur. Gof, it's sulfur. Yeah, also it's very flammable. Bishul gvina, cheese. A lot of people here ask on the girsa, they say it's not really gvina. There's another girsa. Yeah, whatever. Maybe it's a very fatty. Yeah, I know it says wax, but it's not so good. I know, thank you. There's another bit that says wax, but v'shel revav, the 4th one, which is revav, Rashi says means wax or fat. So you can't say gvina. Maybe gvina means very fat cheese. The ones I'm not allowed to eat. I don't know, 40%, it's so flammable, it's so fat. So bekitzer, revav is something of wax or shuman, anything that's, that's very oily. Those 4, if you put something very flammable inside, even though the fire is just in the minority, it's going to catch on. You know that, and you can leave the fire like that as Shabbos comes in. The Masnisa Tana, the Mishnah, the Brisa adds 1 more or 2 more items. Afshel kash v'shel gvova. Kash and gvova are really 2 types of hay and straw. Yeah, these like when you have hay and straw, it's very, very flammable. Hay and straw, kash and gvova are very flammable. If the medura is made out of kash, no problem. It does go out very quickly when the whole thing finishes burning. Yeah, but he's not going to stoke it. He knows that it's short-lived, but stoking doesn't help kash and gvova. You'll see it in perek shlishi. He does what he does and it finishes. It's one of the factors. Perek shlishi, is all about that. Kash and gvova, it burns very quickly and extinguishes quickly, but he's stoking won't make a difference. So he won't do it, so it's okay. Even if just a minority is on, for sure, kash, it's going to go very quickly. It's not wet, it's dry. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, I would say the last statement for today, for this perek, Eitzim shel Bavel ein tzrichin roiv. Interesting statement. Says Rabbi Yochanan, who lived in Eretz Yisrael, he says those woods that they used in Bavel, they don't need roiv. Now these eitzim could be even, we're talking about 1 single eitz, is possibly, I think. The eitzim shel Bavel, either bonfire or just 1 eitz you light before Shabbos, you don't need the roiv. Now the question is, what kind of eitzim does he mean that they use in Bavel that are so flammable, are so quick to burn, that even if it's just a minority, it's going to fly or it's going to continue? Maskif Rav Yosef, Mahi. Rav Yosef is not asking, he's attacking. Mahi. What kind of wood are you talking about from Bavel? Ilem, a silti. Maybe you mean to say that our minhag, says Rashi in Bavel, is to cut the woods to be very, very thin, very fine pieces. The word silti appears many, many times, also in Agaditas on the Churban. Everybody reads it in Tisha B'Av. One of the warehouses was for silti. Mentioned many times this word. Silti are like very thin, fine, not human made, but human cut pieces of wood. And maybe you want to tell me that if I burn the silti, the wood that's cut very thin, that's because it's thin, that's what's going to go very quickly. He says, no, I don't accept that. And because that was accepted in Bavel to do that, you call that our wood in Bavel? Is that so? Hashta, Psila Omar Ula, as we're going to see, oh, this is preparing us for Bema Mizlikin. Ula says when it comes to the Psila of Shabbos, yeah, a person who lights his Shabbos candles, he has to make sure also that the Shabbos candles themselves, yeah, if let's say, yeah, your wife lit blah, 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 half a second. Okay. And sorry, it's Zoom again. Your wife lights for half a second without paying much attention. Maybe the wicks are not gonna be well lit, right? And then she'll relight, chas v'sholom, not remembering what's going on. So that's why even by the nearest of Shabbos it says, you have to make sure that the part of the wick that comes out of the candle of the lantern, most of it is already on. The fire's on. She has to stay there, yeah, with the thing, with a match, whatever, making sure the majority, sometimes they're long, is the majority is already lit. Otherwise, again, same problem. You may play around with it later, or tilt it, or do something. So wait a second, silti mibaya. If you're telling me that you can't just say that anything that's thin, anything that's as thin as a silti, then nothing's going to happen because that for sure it's going to go and continue and burn. It's not true. If you're talking about the psila, which is very fine, made out of what? Whatever, something good, whatever we're going to see, made out of good material and also full of oil. And even then you say that you are still concerned that you have to leave your hands there. So you're telling me a wood is much less flammable. One wood is much less flammable than a psila, than a wick. Just because it's thin, so what? The wick is also thin. Just being thin doesn't mean that you light automatically, right? At least halacha doesn't recognize that. So you can't say that that's the Babylonian tree you're talking about, the wood. Ela, Omar Rabbi Yosef, Shucha de Arza. Oh, Shucha de Arza. Shucha de Arza, we're going to meet very soon in the next perek, is basically, you know, it's erez, the piece of the cedar wood, and it's covered with the shoicha, which is there's a bark of the tree, the rind, the bark, the klipa of the tree, and in between you have like something, the substance that reminds you of like wool. You have this like woolly kind of substance between the bark and the tree itself, the body of the tree, and that's highly flammable. And that's mav'iroi. Once you light that one, and that was accepted in Babel, that was the Babylonian one. Once you light that, because the wood by itself doesn't light very well, but the wood comes with its own lighting mechanism, which is really that tzemer, and together they light very nicely, so that you don't have to worry. Even if just 10-20% is on, it's going to continue. Be'ezras Hashem, you can go to shul, your wife can go to, and everything is good. Rabbi Bar Abba Amar Zaza. Interesting word to finish the perek with. Rabbi Bar Abba says that Zaza means a few things. Zaza either means just a dry piece of wood. Some Rishonim say it like a dried out a branch of a tree. It's very dry, and that's why it's going to light very quickly. We all know that. The drier, the quicker it's going to go, right? Or according to Rashi, Molsha, it's very interesting. Rashi says Molsha is like moss. I guess it's very dry moss, because moss is wet, tachav. But if the moss is very dry, I guess it's very flammable. Yeah, I don't know why moss is in a tree, but that's the way it's translated here. Molsha. Molsha in Hebrew is tachav. Tachav, I think, is moss, and that's good enough. That's the tree of Babel that surely lights by itself without any problems. You just start it, and it goes. Yeah, the whole fire extends, and you can rest assured, and nobody will touch it. So we saw quite a few exceptions to the rule. Yeah, you have, when it comes to highly flammable things, let's review a little bit. Either you put some gasoline inside or whatever, tar, stuff like that, then it's going to go by itself, or very dry wood, or the tachav, or if you have a tree with this substance in it, inside the bark, you have this like wool kind of thing, which makes it light very quickly. All these things, yeah, or konim, right? Konim that are either together or not, or the garinim, they're very flammable, either when together or they're not. These are highly flammable. They burn quickly, and even if just the minority is on, it will be on. You don't have to worry. And you can go have it lit, and it's not usher to have it in that situation of minority being burnt when Shabbos comes in. Oh, now we're starting. Now I'm going to, hopefully, Be'ezras Hashem, we'll be able to start. the second perek, as was advertised today. Baruch Hashem, I want to thank Lev Seltzer for the nice advertisement. B'mei madlikin, b'mei madlikin. Oh, it feels like Shabbos already. Haha, b'mei madlikin. Yeah, Wednesday. Wednesday is the day when you have to prepare for Shabbos already. One mistake which I want to avoid, we didn't even start talking, I'm already talking about mistakes. The mistake is very common. When people learn this Mishnah, yeah, they think, because this Mishnah is telling me, yeah, what kind of wicks and oils am I allowed to use for Shabbos candles? What kind of wicks and oils I'm not allowed to use for the Shabbos candles? And soon we'll see why not. Before we even talk about anything, this Mishnah does not say that you have to light Shabbos candles. The Gemara in Daf Chafei Amud Beis, the Bayin Rov over there, very, very interesting Gemara in Lomdus, yeah. It says over there, yeah, Baruch Hashem, Chafei Amud Beis, yeah. Chafei Amud Beis state, the Gemara debates if you have to light Shabbos candles or not, Bichlal is a mitzvah. What do you mean? Well, there may be another Mishnah, maybe there are other sources, but this Mishnah is just telling you, if you have a candle lit on Shabbos, I want to remind you, this was written before Thomas Edison was born, I think. No? There were no light bulbs, so people just use candles tam. And the Mishnah is telling you, if you happen to have a candle on Shabbos, now I'm not saying you don't have the Shabbos candles that you have to have, yeah? But in general, it's talking about once you have a Shabbos candle for religious or secular reasons, some oils and some wicks are out of question. Why are they out of the question? As before we see the list, this very interesting list, because there are many reasons, but all reasons are more or less the same. The idea is as follows. If you have a wick which is very low quality, oil that's very low quality, I'm using on purpose general terms, low quality, what's going to happen? It's going to flicker. It's not lavhev. It's going to flicker all the time, right? And that is going to drive you crazy. And you'll do one of the two. Even if you don't read by the candlelight, which was a different zera, even if you don't read or delouse by the light of the candles, a separate or distinguish between you and your wife's black clothes, yeah? Even if you just sit at the Shabbos table, you're not doing anything significant, just enjoying the chicken soup, yeah? The mere fact that the light flickers like meshugana, you'll go meshugana, and then you will tilt the candle. You know how candles used to look like a lamp, like a lantern. You'll tilt it in order to make sure the more oil is more concentrated by the wick, and that will be an isra of havara. Yeah, you'll be adding light. You're flaring up the fire, right? And that is an isra deraisa of mavir. Other Rishonim says, we're going to see later, you're going to leave the room. Not as bad, but bad enough. Why? Although I said what I said before, but we do know that there is a mitzvah to have Shabbos candles, right? Maybe it's not here. There is such a mitzvah last time I checked, yeah? And why is the mitzvah near Shabbos? There are three reasons why to have Shabbos candles. One reason is Oinig Shabbos, Kovet Shabbos. You have to eat by the light. That's Oinig Shabbos. You see what you eat, not in a dark room. If you're going to leave the room, you prefer the darkness. I think the Rambam says, if I'm not mistaken, you prefer the dark over the on and off, which drives you up the wall. You're going to have the Shabbos meal in a dark room or outside in the Chotzar. That we don't want. All that will be discussed. Gemara Rishonim is just giving you the general overview. So to avoid all these tragedies from happening, all these hazards, the Mishnah told you there are certain oils that are not good and certain wicks that are not good. Stay out of them. Don't use them for any candle you have at home on Shabbos. Let's see. En Madlikin. Nobody here, you see, Rashi in the Mishnah is very short, simply because everything will be explained in the Gemara. The first list is a list of wicks. Lo belechesh, velo bechoisen, velo becholach, velo bepsilas haidan, velo bepsilas hamidba, velo beokosh al pnei hamayim. This is the list of psilos which are bad quality. The Gemara will explain each and every one of them. Because of bad quality, don't use them as wicks for Shabbos. Now starts the second list of oils. Oils or other, oils and the like, which should not be used on Shabbos for the candle because they don't burn well because they're too hard. They're too hard. They don't really flow nicely into the wick and creating a nice flame. V'lo bezefes, okay, that's easier. Zefes is tar. V'lo b'shava, which is wax. V'lo b'shemen kik. The Gemara is going to give three explanations. Bezel Shem tomorrow. What shemen kik. V'lo b'shemen sreifa. Shemen sreifa is all different story. Shemen sreifa will be something of kochim to be discussed. V'lo be'alya. Don't use that's the tail of the animal which you bring on the korban. Don't use the fat of the back of the animal, of the tail of the animal. V'lo b'chelev. You know what chelev is? Yeah, chelev by the way is mutar ba'ano. If you have a question, yeah. Chelev, you're allowed to have chelev. People used to use that, but they don't like nicely, so don't use them. Nachum Hamadi Oimer, Badlikin Bechelev Mevushal. Nachum Hamadi says that if the chelev was cooked before, it's cooked and it's hot and runny, you can use it. Yeah, because right now it's good. Yeah, it's now it's runny and it's hot and it's mevushal already. It's being diluted. The Chachamim Oimrim Echad Mevushal, Echad Shen Mevushal, Ein Malikin Boy. Chachamim say no. We're going to see the reason why. But Chachamim say once chelev is there, chelev is out of the question. You should not use chelev even if you improved it somehow. The Gemara will explain why do Chachamim, why they're so strict about it, and what's the difference between Tanakama and the Chachamim. All that is not for today. This was just the Mishnah general overview. Each and every part of the Mishnah, Be'ezus Hashem, will be explained. Now we're going to go through the list of wicks, translating each and every one to exactly what it means. Be'ezus Hashem. Number one, lechesh. Lechesh, says the Gemara. What's lechesh? Shoicha de arza. Remember that? Shoicha de arza is what? That piece of wood. It's a piece of wood. Now, that piece of wood could be, it was very good for what? For the medura, for a big fire. But as a wick, it's not good as a wick. It's wood. Yeah, it's not flammable enough to mamish be a wick. And the Gemara says it's so bad. Frek the Gemara, shoichu de arza, eitz be'almahu. What are you talking about? Rashi says, pshita de lo echazi lepsila ele medura. A piece of wood can never be a good wick. Not suitable b'chlal. You can't light it as a wick. It's just good as part of the bonfire. Answers the Gemara be'amranisa de isbe. What did we say about 5 minutes ago? That shoicha de arza has one component in it, one ingredient, which is that woolly substance between the bark and the wood. If you only use that, you make a nice little fine wick out of that woolly kind of substance. Only from that, that's a wick. Wick has to be like cloth, like fabric, and that's good enough. It's good enough, but it's not good for us for Shabbos because it's still going to flicker. It's good enough to be the wick. You can call it a wick. But you're not allowed to use it because you will do the job, but in a very low-class way, very sugbet. And it's going really to flicker back and forth because it's like wool. Wool, we're going to see later, it doesn't burn nicely. But you can imagine it's all over the place. Now, next one. So what's lechesh? Next time you're in shul and you say b'mei madlikin, lechesh is that substance inside the etz erez, the cedar wood. V'lo b'choisen. What's choisen? Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef at the beginning wants to say ne'oires shel pishtan. Ne'oires shel pishtan means once they deal with pishtan, with flax, and they beat it and they comb it, then you have what Rashi calls min hadak sheba pishtan. In other words, ne'oires is like small pieces of pishtan or like thin pieces of pishtan or flax that after you comb it, either they fall from the main one or they become ne'oires. It's like nesoret, the small pieces of flax, and they are not good. Amar Abaye, why aren't they good? And also, you can't say choisen means ne'oires. Ba'aksiv, it says in the Novi, v'hoy hachosain le'ne'oires. The Novi talks about someone, I didn't check it inside now, that strong, what's chason in Hebrew? Strong. Very good. The strong one will become ne'oires. So you see that chason is not ne'oires. Chason means the pishtan before it's been combed and beaten and weakened. Because pishtan by nature is very strong. Even pishtan is very strong kind of fabric. You comb it and you torture it, then it becomes much softer. The chason, the strong one, will become ne'oires. So you can't say chason means ne'oires. They're two opposite things. That's a strong one, and that's a softer one after it's been softened. Elomar Abaye, therefore says Abaye, kitna dedaik veloy nafit. On the contrary, the chasoin which we talk about is one that was daik but not nafit, which means it's something that's been already. They started already processing it. Yeah, the way pishtan grows. At the beginning, it grows inside the stalks of a flower. Yeah. So at the beginning, there are medaik. They started separating it like ledakdek, but they didn't comb it properly. So it's still tough. The pishtan has to go through a whole process, of niputz. Niputz, as menapitz, is one of the 39 melachot of Shabbos. Menapitz means to comb, originally quite vigorously to comb the wool or comb the pishtan to make them much softer. So this pishtan has been a little bit out of the thing, so you can make a wick out of it, but it's not menupatz, it's not properly combed, and therefore it's still hard. It is still chason, it's still too strong, and therefore you cannot use it for the wick because it's going to be too strong and not soft enough, and the fire will play around with it, and it will not catch fire nicely. It's too hard. So what's the second one on the list? Choisen. Choisen means pishtan, flax, that wasn't properly processed. That's choisen. Number 3, v'loy bekolach. Oh, welcome to the world of kolach, which is now, kolach is a type of silk. V'loy bekolach. Omer Shmuel. Shaltina l'kol nechusei yoma. All the people go down at sea, all the people, the sailors, they go to all these exotic places, they know about all these things. And I asked them, what's kalach, the Amri law? And they told me, or Amri li, some say kulcha shmei. It's called kulcha. Well, it doesn't really help us much, but soon the Gemara is going to, kulcha, as we're going to see later, kulcha is a type of meshi, of silk, which wasn't properly processed. Rav Yitzchak bar Zira Omar gushkera. Gushkera, Rashi gets more specific, and Rashi says that when they take the, how do you call it in English, the cocoon? You know how the silk is created? We used to have, as kids, we used to have silkworms. It was a very fashionable thing to grow them inside shoe boxes. In Israel, there was, I don't know about the Anglo world, and no, because it's very nice. You see how they grow, and they eat the thing, and then they become cocoons, and then they fly. Like you used to follow the process. That was before computers. Yeah, that was the good old days. So now, basically, the gushkera is when they take it's a very specific type of silk. They would take the silk cocoon of the silkworm, would cut it, the menapets, and make silk out of that. Yeah? So it's a kind of silk which is a little bit harder than the regular silk. Yeah? Because lemaisa, that is silk which is harder. It's made out of the cocoon. When they cut it, they break it. They make silk out of it, but it's not very refined. We always think of silk as something very soft. Gushkera is silk which is purposefully created in such a way which is a bit tougher. And if you take a piece of that gushkera, it won't do the job. Yes, the fire will be there. It's called a wick, not the good one that we want. Rashi specifies over here, it's going to jump all over, flicker, and you're going to go nuts. Now, Rabin Babaye, a story to develop this idea of gushkera. Rabin Babaye, Abu Yatvika made the Ravna Nehemiah. Rabin and Abaye sat down. They were sitting in front of Ravna Nehemiah. Who is Ravna Nehemiah? Achua the Reish Galusa. Oh, fancy guy. The brother of the Reish Galusa, the brother of the head Jew of all the Jews in Babel. So they were, Reish Galusa were royal people. Do you think he just wore regular bekitcha, regular jacket? What, from Liba? Mapitom. He would wear what? Silk. Chazio Davalovish Metaksa. They saw that he wore something called metaksa, like tuxedo maybe, I don't know, metaksa. There was like a me'il, says Rashi, made out of that meshi, of the ikar hameshi, of, again, silk, which wasn't very refined. By the way, you should know today also there are different types of silk. There's a silk called wild silk, Berber silk. Yeah, there are different types of silk today too. So that kind of silk is what he would wear. They would be metaksa, made out of that raw silk. Amar Rabin La'abaye, hey, Hainu kalach detnan. Look, this is a kalach that we talk about. What this guy is wearing, Talmidei Chachamim are always impressed when they see something halakhic in real life. Oh, what this guy is wearing, that's the kalach mentioned in the Mishnah. Omar Le. So now, I think the one that replied is Abaye, as far as I understand, or maybe the person, maybe Nehemiah. Yeah. Anan Shira Parnada Karinan Le. We call that Shira Parnada. I think it's Abaye who said it. We call it not kalach, we call it shira parnada. So far, so good. In other words, we can say that kalach of the Mishnah is shira parnada. Okay, that's just another name. You call it silk and you call it swa. Meseve. But now comes the question. Look what the Brisa says here. Ashiroim. This Brisa talks about tzitzis. Ashiroim. That shiroim is talking about meshi. Shiroim, bigdei shiroim, right? You also bigdei shiroim. They're clothes made out of silk. Shiroim, silk garments. Vehakolach. Oh, vehakolach. It sounds like shiroim and kolach are two separate ones. Vehasirikin. Sirikin is a different type of silk, which is actually much softer. All of them chayovin betzitzis. The chiddush over there is that some opinions hold that the only chiyuv d'oraisa for tzitzis is only if you wear Tzemer. That's what many of us do that, right? Only if you have woolen clothes, woolen garment, you chayav b'tzitzis. Some say pishtan, but if you have silk or other items, you're not chayav. This Tana holds that even other items, such as silk, are also chayav b'tzitzis. Or says Rashi, maybe the chiyuv is the rabbanon. But one thing really sticks out. Excuse me. How do you say that shiraim? We assume shiraim and shira parnada are the same. You told me before that kalach and shira parnada are the same. If we listen to conversation of Rabin and Abaye in the presence of the fancy guy, they basically said, we call it kalach, we call it shiraim. Oh, and here the Mishnah says, or the Brisa says, shiraim and koloch. They're not the same. They're not the same. It's this and that. Tufta. Oh, so first of all, we say Nechanam, it's a tufta. It's a claim against Rabin. Yeah, or Rabin said that's kalach, and we say no, that's shira parnada. So shira parnada is not kalach, so he's wrong. Or iboy sema. Another potential answer: shira lechud v'shira parnada lechud. Very, very good. In other words, if you notice the words, when he said Abayan and Rabin, when they spoke, yeah, they said that shira parnada is called kalach. And the Tana says shiroim, different ones. Shiroim are regular silk. Shiroim, Rashi says ikarameshi. Regular silk is shiroim. Kalach is a tough silk made out of the more raw cocoon. And sirikin and the softer silk. Yeah? But lemaisa, each one is separate. So shiroim is not kalach, and kalach is shira parnada. Each one separate. Each one is for itself. Maskana, 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 maskana. What is it when we say some of us say every Erev Shabbos, we say kalach? What's kalach? It's a type of tough silk. It's not underdeveloped. It's on purpose. Yeah, people take the cocoon, they break it, and probably don't process it enough. They like it to be harder, softer, tougher, stronger. I don't know why. Yeah, and that kind of silk is not so fire friendly, and therefore don't light with it, and that's called kalach. Weiter, veloy b'psila sa'idan. Another kind of wick which is not good for us is achvina. Ooh, those remember from yesterday? What's achvina? Arava. It's a arava tree, what we use in sukkahs. Or some Meforshim say it's a poplar, tzafzefa, which is similar to the arava. And that psila sa'idan is something not good. Oh, soon we're going to see what part of it. Right now we think the actual arava, you stick it in the fire, and that's not a good piece. It's not good wick. Rabin Babai, to explain further, the Gemara says, Rabin Babai havu ka'azlu, again Rabin and Abaye, interesting, same people. Rabin Babai havu ka'azlu bepakta de Tamurisa. They were walking in the valley or in the plain called Tamurisa, that's the name of it. Chazinu lanu aravta, they saw some willow trees, yes, some willows, arava is growing. Omel Rabin la Abaye, hey, hainu idan tetnan, very good, hey, that's the idan, yeah, psila sa'idan that we spoke about, here it is. That's the one that is usher to use. Amarle. So now Abai responded, what? Hey, etz ba'almahu. As I was hinting to you before, what do you mean? It's just wood. Can you think of putting an arava as a wick? It's wood. It's too tough. It's too big. It's not a wick. Answers the Gemara. You know what he did to him? Kolaf. He peeled it. He peeled the tree of the arava. Achvile amranisa de beini beini. And he showed him again that woolly substance, arava or tzafzefa, whatever, that tree also has that woolly kind of substance between the bark and the body of the tree. And it can be used as a wick. It's not a tree, it's a wick. Maybe they use it in other places, but it's not a good wick because it doesn't catch the fire nicely. The fire will jump around and is not friendly for Shabbos use. V'lo b'psila samidba. What's psila samidba? That's shivra or shavra. Shavra, says Rashi, is ortega, and that is nettle. Ooh, nettle. You know what's nettle? Nettle in English, sirpad. Very, very, you don't know what it means. It's, they make shampoo out of it. It's a very, very, very nasty thing to touch. It's very, very, it's like a low green kind of plant, and it's very, very, very unpleasant to the skin. You touch it with your skin, you're gonna die. It's not die, literally, it's very, very painful. It once happened to me. It's like, it's very, how do you call it? Very prickly, more, not acidic. No, mom's bites you. You think an animal is biting you. It's really bad. It's like, it's very, prickly, very strong, very sharp. I don't know, not cactus. No. It's more, it's like, it's much like the whole sensation of like, I can't describe it. The kids don't use it for your wicks. If you think of using it as a wick, well, it's not friendly to the flame, and it's going to be, too flickery, and it's not good. The lobby I'm sorry, we're a little bit overboard. Just a few more lines. The lobby the last but not least is the green substance that's over the water. Mahi, what kind of green item from the sea, from the water you're talking about? If you want to tell me that's the green stuff, says Rashi, that just grows on top of the water, right? You have the water, and on top of that, you have like algae, right? Algae, yeah, like those. That ifruchim ifarchan. Once they're dry, of course you can't begin to use them because they break right away. They can't catch fire, yeah, not because they're too tough, they're too breakable. They're like powder. Yeah, they're gonna break in a second. No fire will survive. Arva. Arva is a boat. The green stuff that grows in the boat is a little bit tougher, and that is something which you can use as a wick, and it will light. But again, the fire will be too flickery, too on and off, and that's why it's not good. Tana, here comes the brisa that kind of argues on our Mishnah, as we're going to see. Oh, the brisa is opposed to our Mishnah, added two more items, two more types of wicks that you're not allowed to light with: semel, regular wool, a woolen wick, or se'ar, a wick made out of hair, human hair. And they're not good, of course. Can you imagine hair lighting? It's going to go very, yeah. And also the semel. Why didn't Artana mention them? Does Artana think that a wick made out of wool or made out of hair is going to light nicely, so it doesn't mention it? Answers more, no, it's so bad it doesn't have to be mentioned. Semer michvatzkovitz, the semer is going to shrink and shrivel right away. Yeah, it's so bad, it's not going to light not nicely. It's not called lighting. Se'ar ichruchim ichrach. The se'ar, the hair is going to burn right away. Look, hair burns, and no flame will catch bichlal. So according to our Mishnah, it's not even worth mentioning. It's so bad, it's so below flame level that it's poshut that nobody would dream of using it. And the Brisa says no. Brisa explains the Brisa was more like yekish. It mentions all the bad items. Well, like whatever is not good, it just play it safe, and that's what I understood. Brisa, okay, Zephys I'm not mentioning because Zephys already belongs to the second group of the oils. That's the next one in line. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the oils, and tomorrow we're going to talk about, maybe we'll get to Chanukah. Oh, possibly. Tomorrow is going to be, many, many interesting things about this issue that we spoke about now. And also we're going to talk about maybe Chanukah at the end of this year, or maybe that'll be 2 days' time. Atzlocha uvrocha, thank you very, very much. Seaweed, right. Tzvi is telling me it's called seaweed, right. The algae is also called seaweed, right. Atzlocha, thank you, Tzvi. Thank you very much, and welcome to the new participant, Danny. It's so nice to see you here. Atzlocha uvrocha, thank you, good night.